Guys, I am Jennifer Paweleck-Bellingrodt, and I would like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, Mend Your Mind. I am a licensed clinical psychologist in Arizona. I'm a former Army psychologist, and now I have a private practice in Goodyear, Arizona. I am creating this YouTube channel so that I can post videos of various mental health topics, and that includes a lot of writing that I've done or lectures that I've given that are strictly in written format at this point, and I'm turning them into videos so that you're able to watch these or listen to these when you're not able to read the posts themselves. So thank you for joining me, and the first thing we're going to talk about today is perception. Probably the most common thing I work with people on in therapy is their perception, and that's because our perception is our reality. So I'm going to talk with you today about perception and the different kinds of lenses or glasses that we see things through that can be good or they can be problematic. So I want to first start with a quote by Anais Nin. He was a writer who lived from 1903 to 1977. And he said, "We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are." So to me, that is a perfect way to say perception is everything, perception is reality. So each person's perception is that person's reality. And that's kind of what makes the world go around, but that can be problematic in certain circumstances. So sometimes I've asked couples in my office to replay a scenario or a situation or an argument, and it's amazing to me that when you listen to the two sides of the story, it's almost like you're listening to two people talk about two entirely different events, and their perceptions just are completely different. So it's very important that we have an accurate perception, and if we're not sure about a perception, we check that out with the other person. So I like to say that there are three sides to every story. There's yours, mine, and the truth. And the truth is always somewhere in between those two stories. Not that either party in the situation is trying to lie or misrepresent, but it's just based on how we see things and how different that can be. And the feelings that we have are not right or wrong. They just are, and they just exist. But the thoughts that come from those feelings are another matter entirely. So the thoughts can get us into trouble because of assumptions that we make, and how we see a given situation or a person or an event is entirely subjective. How we respond is within our control, and our responses are often character-defining moments. But the goal is to see things as clearly as possible with a good balance of rational thought and emotion. So not being too far on either end of a continuum, but being somewhere in the middle where your perception is the most accurate and includes both rational thinking and then the side of emotion. So sometimes, no matter how hard we try, we struggle to see things clearly. And the lens that we see things through is different for each of us. So that lens is colored by our life experiences, past events, our interactions with other people. Basically, our perception in any given situation is determined or influenced by everything that's happened to us up until that point in our lives. So whether that's childhood, whether that's experiences, relationships, you name it, all of those things influence how we see the world and how we respond in a given situation at any moment. So the lens that we see things through, there are three colors that I identify for these lenses. So there is clear, rose-colored, and gray. Those are the three lenses that we can see things through. So these can vary across situations. So in an area of greater self-esteem or confidence, the lens might have a little bit of a pink hue or tint to it. In an area where we don't feel particularly adept, though, the lens may have somewhat of a shadow over it. Clear is the most accurate color, of course, regardless of who you are or what you've experienced. So the other two can result in decisions based on positive or negative feelings originating from the skewed thoughts the lenses create. So we have our emotions, which are our sort of gut reactions to situations, and then from those emotions we get thoughts. And the thoughts can be positive, negative, neutral, but those thoughts then generate our behavior or our response to the situations. So let me break these three down. The first one I'm going to do is rose-colored. So those are the glasses that Pollyanna wears, and seeing things through these glasses can result in naivete and being taken advantage of. It can also result in disappointment when the unrealistic expectations aren't met. So if it's a pie in the sky sort of view where everything is just rosy, that's not necessarily an accurate view. We want to be positive and remain optimistic because life is just too short to do it any other way. But sometimes we can get carried away, and that's when those glasses become rose-colored. So as an example, trusting someone too early in a relationship, revealing too much of yourself, and having it used against you by an immature or spiteful person. So it's important to have boundaries, which we'll be talking about in the future for sure, because that's the other thing that I see so often in my practice is boundary issues. But right now we're talking about revealing too much, sharing too much, going into too much detail early on in a relationship. Whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, doesn't matter. We just need to be very clear that we have good boundaries about that. So seeing things through gray glasses, on the other hand, can result in sadness, lost opportunities, and relationship difficulties. So if you see everything as doom and gloom, your self-esteem is affected. And that in turn affects your motivation and can result in depression or chronically depressive thinking. So dark thinking, negative thinking, pessimistic, Debbie Downer, negative Nelly, those kinds of things. Those are examples of wearing gray glasses, where everything is just kind of colored over by this shadow and there's not a lot of hope. And a lot of times the glasses we wear, as I said, are based on past experiences. So if your past experiences are characterized by failure or success, that's going to influence the color of your glasses. The thing to remember is that it's not an absolute. So yes, in our lives we've had successes, and yes, in our lives we've had failures. And then we've had experiences that are just kind of neutral in the middle. But when you're looking at doing something new, you have to create a balance. So it's not that you see only the failures in your life or you see only the successes and you become naive to what it actually takes to be successful in the next endeavor. So we're looking for that balance. And I'm going to give you some suggestions when you're trying to see eye to eye with someone else and you recognize that the perceptions are different. So this is about meeting in the middle and kind of navigating through that situation where you might be missing what someone else is saying or vice versa. So first and foremost, recognize that your thoughts and feelings are just as valid as the other person's, despite what that person may have you believe. We're all created equal. No one is lesser or greater than anyone else. I like to say the ground is level at the foot of the cross. So we're all created equal, and we have valid thoughts and feelings that should be shared just as much as the next person. The other thing that you can remember is be assertive and present your viewpoint. So state how you're feeling, state what you're thinking, clearly express your feelings and your thoughts, and use I statements, not accusatory you statements. So for instance, if I say, you are a jerk, that's very different from saying, when you say that I don't ever contribute around the house, I feel hurt. I don't think that's accurate, and I feel you are overstating the situation. So this is an example of being told that your input around the house doesn't occur, basically. And that's an absolute, going all the way from that perception and saying you're a jerk, that's an absolute. We want to avoid absolutes at all costs. Very few things in life are life and death, and so we want to fall in that middle ground again. And absolutes include things like never and always, forever, only, all the time. These are all absolutes. So that's the second point, is that you want to make sure you stay away from those because they're very rarely accurate descriptions of a person's behavior over time. So you're looking at things over time and not in isolated events. Certainly, if we want this to work out, we want to be open to the other person's perspective. So you want to listen to that person without interrupting. Even if it completely contradicts what you're thinking or doesn't mesh with how you're feeling at all, it's important to just listen and hear the person out. You give what you get, or you get what you give. So if you want someone to listen to you, then you should listen to them. It sounds simple, but it's amazing how complicated it can be for people. Another point to consider is paraphrasing what you heard the other person say, and then you can check it out with that person. So it's not unlike a business transaction. So as an example, so you are saying that you don't think I do much around here. Is that right? So I know, guys, this is not rocket science, but a little thing like this can make a big difference. So if you don't start off on the same page, then there's a trickle-down effect where things just get worse from there. So something seemingly small can actually make a big difference just to make sure you're off on the right foot. You want to respond as clearly and non-accusatorily as possible. Say that 3 times fast. So an example, well, I don't think you do a single thing around here either, is very different from, I feel that is an inaccurate statement because I feel that I do contribute by so forth and so on, and listing the things that you think you do contribute. So giving examples when someone makes an absolute is a really helpful goal or option for conveying your feelings. The next point is recognize when you've met your match, and don't be afraid to just agree to disagree. You're not going to see eye to eye with everyone on everything all the time. So you want to choose your battles wisely in this. So if you're talking about fundamental differences in values, you might have a nice conversation for a while, but don't assume that if you keep talking, no matter how calmly and rationally in your own mind, you will change that person's perspective. An example of this is politics. So a lot of people, especially as they age, become very staunch in their political views. And it's nice to have a discussion or a debate sometimes, but you have to go into these things realistically, politics being the example, that your goal is not necessarily to change the other person's perspective, but just to share your own and be understood. So it's a matter of really taking a look at what your goal is in that situation. So if it's a different type of discussion and the person isn't changing his mind or perspective or can't seem to see your point of view, you may have to disagree or agree to disagree, move on, or if it happens continually and it seems to be affecting the quality of the relationship, you may want to end the relationship. So this is about not having toxic people in your life. So if both parties honestly and assertively expressed themselves, it's not a total loss to end the relationship, and most likely you learned something along the way. So remember, everything happens for a reason. All the people in our lives are put there for a reason and a season. There's a purpose, and sometimes that purpose is long-term, and sometimes it's just short-term to teach us some sort of goal or teach us some sort of lesson. So that concludes the first post. This is the post today was on perception. Thank you for watching, and you can read more about me and read other posts on my website, which is drbellingrodt.com, BELLINGRODT, drbellingrodt.com, and there are details about that in the comments, and you can also feel free to leave a comment, or if you have a question, you can do that there. I will check that as regularly as I can. You can also email me by going through my website, and my email address is also in the comments or the description below. If you have any questions, just let me know. If there's a topic that you'd like to see me address for these posts, then let me know that as well. Thanks for watching.